So in today's video, we're going to talk about the bane of many guitarists' existence, which is your right hand technique. I feel like a lot of time we spend a bunch of time getting our left hand to behave, and then eventually our right hand lets us down and stops moving as fast as we like it to. And this is something that I see in a lot of my students, and it's a really popular topic in lessons, is getting your right hand to move as efficiently as possible. And this video has to come with a disclaimer that in my experience, right hand technique is something that is very personal. Everybody has a different kind of physiology with the instrument. Everybody has a different kind of way of dealing with it. There are some incredibly fast guitar players who play with very confusing, weird, idiosyncratic techniques. So I'm just going to share some basic principles that I think apply to every picking technique, as well as showing a little bit of what I do and kind of my solutions I've found. So do take what I say with a grain of salt, but see if you can apply some of it to your own playing and if you get anything out of it. So the first thing I like to talk about with all students is, say we're working on, a major scale. Alternate picking that is a great way. Scales are an awesome way to work on your alternate picking technique because they give you a lot of feedback on whether your right hand is kind of stuttering or falling behind. And the first thing that I have to correct in a lot of my students that are either self-taught or relatively new to the instrument is something that's widely referred to as pick travel. And pick travel is the idea of how far your pick moves in between your alternate picking strokes. So when you're alternate picking, if I'm doing something really, really fast, I'm really trying to keep my pick close to the string so that I'm not wasting energy. A lot of guitar players tend to have this kind of like really big dramatic sway, and really you want to keep your range of motion as close to the string as you possibly can. Ooh, that was a scary chord. But that basic idea of pick travel is you just want to keep your pick as close as possible. And this is something that sometimes works best to actually practice a little bit slower. So say you're working on, let's say, G major. And when you're trying to shrink down your pick travel, I used to try and do this so that I'm literally going, oh, I made it Lydian on the way down, but I'm going slow enough that I can actually watch my right hand. And something that I try to think about is, honestly, it's almost like I'm leaning on the string is kind of, don't know how well this is going to show up on my faithful camera, but when I'm doing this, I'm almost just bouncing over the top of the string rather than doing big dramatic motions, and that makes it way easier to speed up your picking, obviously, because there's less motion happening, so you can do it a little bit quicker. So that's the idea of pick travel. The second thing that I see holding up my students a lot is something called pick depth, and that's the idea of how low you're picking. I'm basically trying, when I'm playing something fast, I'm trying to keep my pick, basically at the tip of my string. Like, I don't want to be going any deeper than the bottom of my string with my pick, just so that I'm facing less resistance. And this is something that you kind of gradually become aware of when you're doing this, but it's something to keep in mind, is if you feel like you're getting kind of caught up in the strings, you might be letting too much of your pick go below the strings. So you might have to mess with your angle. And then this brings up another good point. There's two kind of main ways that people tend to pick. And so one of them is, there's a lot of people who like to anchor kind of like a pinky or something, and this can be really, really good. Sometimes people say don't do this. I don't think that you shouldn't do this. It just comes with a different kind of thing. I personally don't, but I know a lot of really killing guitarists who leave like a pinky out, or some of them do multiple fingers. And the thought process here is that lets you maintain a little bit more consistent of a ooh, and I've got an email. It helps you maintain a consistent kind of pick height, but it is easy to kind of get lulled into having your pick too deep while doing that. So in that case, you might want to see what happens if you straighten out your pinky or just lift your hand a little bit higher off. The second main kind of picking technique that main kind of picking technique, however you want to say it. This is how I personally do it. I'm kind of anchoring my hand, or not my hand, I'm anchoring my arm a little bit on the back end of my guitar body. And so if I was finding that I was, picking a little bit too deep, I would think about kind of changing that angle a little bit so that my hand is a little bit further away from the strings, just so that it's harder to get there. And it might feel really uncomfortable at first, but it's just kind of one of those things that you need to go slowly with, and you need to just kind of gauge your progress as you go. So that's pick depth. And then the last little tip that I have for you is one thing that I see a lot in my students that comes from a really good place, is they do this kind of thing where if they start picking here, they will go it's really hard for me to try to mimic, but what they're doing is they're sagging their whole arm so that their pick angle stays exactly the same. And this is something that I used to try to do in high school, and I don't really know the physics behind this, but I don't believe it to be the most efficient way to pick, because I used to be obsessed with the incredible Guthrie Govan when I was in high school. I absolutely loved his playing and was amazed at how fast and cleanly he could do everything. And I noticed something really interesting that he was doing, and that was that he isn't actually moving his arm so that his pick angle stays the same on the strings, like almost like you're just trying to pick in a straight line this way. He wasn't doing that. What happened is when he plays runs, as he goes down, his elbow actually flexes out. So his picking angle, like I'll show you an example. If I start G major, I'm kind of picking here between my neck and middle pickup, and when I get to the end of the scale, I'm over my middle pickup. So a lot of my students try to actually avoid that, and I think that it's actually faster if you let your hand, got a loose hair falling in my strings, but that idea of letting your just elbow go out is somehow more natural to me, and it actually lets you play better things quicker. In my experience, is that when you do that and you let your arm kind of come out, this kind of range where you're in this diagonal sway tends to lend itself somehow to your body's physiology. And I think the other thing that it really does probably is that your elbow is naturally kind of a fulcrum point. So there's not a lot of resistance when you do this, but if you're trying to do it while holding your arm perfectly straight, I think it introduces a little bit more tension in your forearm. So that's my non-medical diagnosis as to why that's a more efficient, faster way to pick. But that's a big thing that I see with a lot of students, is they try to just let their arm fall down as they go, and it's really better if you just kind of let that angle come in. But that's just, again, my thoughts. So I hope you found some of this useful. Let me know if you did in the comments below, and let me know if you have any weird picking things that you've found. I'd be interested to hear, because again, we're all different and we all find different ways of dealing with this six-stringed beast. But if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. It truly helps me out more than you could know. If you want to take a guitar lesson with me, I'll have a link to the contact page of my website down below. I work with all genres and all levels of students, and I've actually been working with a bunch of people from YouTube lately, and it's been really fun to connect with people all over the world. So I'd love to help you with whatever you're working on, and have some good one-on-one guitar hang time. And last but not least, I've got new videos coming out every Monday and every Thursday, so I'd love to see you in the next one. And until I do, I wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you get to have some fun playing the guitar. Thanks.